For the first time ever, we saw 1,200 kilos totaled in a powerlifting meet last weekend. Should this incredible athlete be invited to the Deadlift World Championships? So of course we're talking about Colton Engelbrecht, the South African phenom. This guy burst onto the scene about a year ago. I saw him on Instagram, some incredible numbers that he's lifted. But last weekend, this 1,200 kilo total, everyone is talking about it. So obviously we are as well.
Yeah, I mean, he really is incredible. If you look into like the details of it, so 1,200 kilos, that's the all-time world record, I believe, isn't it? So no one's totaled more than that.
Not with raw with wraps.
No, not raw with wraps. But to add on to that, he's only 120 kilos body weight. And like for some people walking around, regular people, that's heavy. In our world, it's not so heavy.
No, when you look at some of the athletes that lift these, I mean, we do have some crazy powerful small athletes.
Yeah,
like John Hack, for instance, pound for pound, one of the greatest powerlifters of all time. I believe that Colton has just overtaken John for the pound for pound title, but obviously the biggest total as well.
Yeah.
I mean, normally you're looking at 150, 160, 170. You've got guys like Thor that have done powerlifting at 200 kilos. Massive, massive men. 120 kilos is relatively small in comparison.
It's relatively normal size. And add on to that, he's only 24 years old. So like strength is one of those things that, you know, people seem to, I think, improve well into their 30s. Obviously, it's really heavily dependent on the age that you're starting. But to be so strong at that size at 24 years old, it really is quite like bewildering almost. It's crazy.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've seen some incredibly talented youngsters, and you do see these guys that can improve very, very quickly. I think the fact that powerlifting is becoming more popular, strongman's becoming more popular, there's more and more youngsters wanting to get into it early, so they're starting earlier, they're almost peaking earlier as well.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to see if people can keep progressing. We see in the strongman world where some of these youngsters kind of burn out by 21, 22, 23. You get other guys that keep progressing throughout. However, this guy's already broken the all-time world record. I mean, the question is, what do you do next?
Well, let's have a look at the numbers that he did to break it, because the really interesting part is he was supposed to do this at a bigger international meet, and I believe he had visa issues that stopped him from being able to travel, so he did it at a local meet instead. Imagine, I mean, I don't know the scale or size of this local meet. It looks great on the videos, but imagine, you know, you're hosting it, you're not expecting him to do it, and then he comes and breaks the all-time world record. That would be pretty incredible.
Damn cool. So, I mean, let's take a look at these lifts to start with, because actually, you know, sometimes in powerlifting, lifts are a bit questionable. Depth on squats, the range of motion on bench.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be talk about sumo, so let's go straight into it. Let's start with a squat.
I think this squat is absolutely brilliant.
It's beautiful.
I mean, I'm a fan of squatting, was a decent squatter myself, and this guy's squat, his technique is superb, the depth is brilliant. Just, you cannot fault this rep. Absolutely perfect. 470 kilos on the man's back, weighing only 120 kilos himself. Like I said, I class myself as a good squatter. I train some great athletes that are good at squatting. This man is phenomenal. This was a beautiful, beautiful squat and deserved of the 3 white lights. 260 kilo bench. Again, an absolutely superb lift. Nothing wrong with this at all. Very, very strong. Great range of motion. I cannot fault the lifts at all. And finally, the 470 kilo deadlift. Sumo deadlift. I have no problem with sumo deadlift. So I know we often get kind of arguments going on. I believe sumo and conventional are different lifts. That's the only thing I will say. However, he has quite a narrow stance for a sumo lifter.
Yeah,
often you see super wide sumo. His range of motion actually isn't too bad. Yeah. Supremely powerful. I've not been able to find any conventional deadlifts from this man.
Yeah, I don't know what his max conventional is.
So if anyone knows what he's done, let us know in the comments below. Because what I would like to see is this guy get invited to the Deadlift World Championships after this.
Okay, so would you impose a conventional rule on him though? Because as you know,
I would. No, you have to deadlift conventional at the Deadlift World Championships.
Yeah.
That's part of the rules. And I feel watching this man with the leg strength in that squat and the narrower stance, I'm sure he's done some massive conventional deadlifts in the gym as well. I just haven't seen them. You can tell he's strong. He's not just strong. You get some lifters. There's some sumo deadlifters. No, there's some sumo deadlifters out there that are built so oddly that they're supreme at sumo deadlifting. But you look at their squat and their deadlift and their bench press, it's not so good. This guy is just clearly strong. There's no weak lift here at all. Every single one of his lifts is elite level, and I'm convinced he would be a good conventional deadlifter, and I think it would be quite cool. We've seen invites before in the past where Jamal Browner, we've had other kind of guest lifters at the deadlift. I think it would be cool to see, firstly, does he want to do it? The Giants Live want him to do it, but I think as fans it would be quite interesting. This guy, I mean, he pulled 470. He was a fraction away from pulling 500 kilos. Now, no suit. No suit. No straps. No straps.
The grip strength is wild.
I mean, tremendous. I mean, it's hook gripping it, but just to hold onto that bar and the
pain tolerance is wild.
Absolutely. It truly is fantastic. And I think it would be interesting to see what he could do against some other really good lifters. So far, because he's been just doing local meets, there is no pressure from external competitors.
No.
It would be interesting to see him against the very best. I think at the moment he's not done a world championships, he's not been up against the best powerlifters. Sometimes that, for me, makes things quite interesting. It's great seeing the record, and just hats off to Colton on this total. But I'm a fan of competition. I like seeing the best guys go head to head. So I think it would be cool to see him thrown into that mix, see what he does, and you know, I think the buzz would be there that maybe the 505 could go with this guy.
Yeah. It'd be like to let him do sumo, but have him have his own little competition. Well,
the thing is, the Deadlift World Championships shouldn't be sumo, and I stand by that because I believe sumo and conventional are just two different lifts.
And I went down the rabbit hole reading all of the comments on the videos, and of course there's so much argument about sumo versus conventional. And a lot of powerlifters but in strongman they allow suits and straps, so how can you say this? And I get it. However, the difference in strongman is it's like the general rule of thumb is it's about getting the weight from A to B. So if you take an overhead, for example, whether someone jerks it, vipers it, strict presses it, the lockout is the same. The finish position in a sumo is different, isn't it? The A to B is different. The B is different.
Well,
the A is different.
It's a much shorter range of motion for people that are good at it.
But that is why it's not allowed in strongman, isn't it?
It is, but it's also... It's like comparing... I don't want to go down this rabbit hole in this video.
Well, we're in it now.
But it's like comparing a leg press to a squat. They are different lifts.
Yeah. To be fair, I can't sumo at all.
And this is what I try and explain. Unless you know, some people are built perfectly for certain lifts. It's just genetics. You know, some people are built better for pressing, shorter leverages, shorter humerus. Some people are built brilliantly for squatting with a shorter femur. Everyone's built differently. So your body shape dictates how good you can be at something to a certain degree. Sumo is, for certain athletes, so much more comfortable, so much more efficient than a regular deadlift. However, they are different lifts. It's like a Frosby flop versus a scissor jump, in our high jump. They're completely different lifts. And obviously, in that sport, they've been evolved to do the Frosby flop in high jump.
I don't know what you're talking
I'm talking about high jumping. But for me, they are just two separate lifts. But why I'm so impressed with Colton is the fact that his squat was so good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when you look at that squat and the narrower stance on the conventional, on the sumo, I can see him pulling a big lift conventional.
I can too.
So as well as the biggest total and the crazy numbers that he lifted, he also had the most dots ever. Now, I don't have a clue what dots means.
It's...
And I've competed in powerlifting. It used to be Wilks back when I was doing powerlifting.
I think Wilks
I think it's something to do with gender, body weight, all that kind of stuff.
It's something to level the playing field, basically. I think it's something that allows you to compare the different classes and lifters against each other. So he scored the most dots ever.
Most dots ever, biggest total ever, pound for pound, the strongest powerlifter ever. I think Mitch Hooper did a video and he spoke about, powerlifting finds the strongest man. I'd probably throw weightlifting in there as well. Whereas strongman finds the best strength athlete or strongman. It's about being good at lots of different things. Yeah. But in powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift, Colton is the king right now. It'd be interesting to see how far he can push. I mean, he could add 30 kilos just getting that deadlift.
Yeah, wow, 1,300 if he did a 500 on his squat and deadlift and a 300 kilo bench.
Insane.
Okay. And like looking at those lifts, 24 years old, if he can stay injury free, it doesn't seem impossible.
If he stays injury free, adds a little bit of body weight, who knows what the man can do. But personally, I want to see him invited to the Deadlift World Championships. Do any of you guys want to see that happen? See him up against the likes of, Rauner, up against the likes of Mitch Hooper, up against, try and get Thor in there, put on 100 grand for the winner, or if anyone can break the record. I spoke to Giants Live and I said, you're going to have to up that prize money if you want to get Thor to do it. Let's get the best lifters from around the world and just see who is the best and smash that record. So we're no longer talking about who is the best out of Eddie and Thor. Let these young guys take over. Let us know what you thought, guys. Incredible, incredible total. Do you want to see Colton in the Deadlift World Championships? Don't forget, like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.